heritage history.
I would like to acknowledge and thank the Menang Noongar people, the traditional custodians of the land. Their deep connection to the region's culture and natural heritage enriches our understanding of Albany's history. As we've seen today, it's quite phenomenal having this many people in the room to have such similar interests. It's a pleasure to be here today. So, as mentioned, my name is Jen. Sorry, here we go. So essentially, I'm just going to go through with you today how we went from Harpoons and now we sit within the heritage field, and then what we really come down to is showcasing to everyone that sharing the connection and the meaningful significance that we hold. I will get this. Okay. Yep. So what our position is to be a heritage custodian for the Chains Beach whaling station. This is a very significant company that is now showcased by us as a tourism destination, and we're very proud to showcase that to over 63,000 visitors per year. Not quite the Fremantle prison, but for a regional location, and being even further from regional, we're rural because we're even outside of Albany. That's pretty significant numbers. It's one of the highest visitations of the region. That's where my history is tourism, and therefore my learning curve and coming to these things is just showcasing how much I need to learn, is the heritage side, and I'm finding it fascinating, and it really does go, the tapestry of tourism, business and heritage and culture all blends in together. Without the tourism side of it, we can't share it, the history with everyone. So the Chains Beach whaling station operated from 1952 to 1978. It is significant for international purposes and Australia, but especially for the Great Southern region. It is something I'm still learning to this day of just how much it's meaningful to everyone in this town, the building of this town, the local economy and the maritime heritage. So our site today, we are a non-for-profit, so we do need to hustle, we do need to get the visitation, we need to get the gate numbers, and we need to be able to put all that money back into the site. We're in one of the most volatile places. We've got the wind, the ocean, everyone knows Albany weather, and so just put us on the Vancouver Peninsula on the tip there. We've got it all coming in, which is fantastic, it's beautiful and showcases the region, but what it also means is we are forever on the path of preserving and conserving what we have. We are a heritage listed site, and we want to continue to be able to showcase that. So we've been open to the public as a museum for over 40 years, in fact 44, and prior to that we date back to 1952. So the infrastructure continued to be built upon as the Chains Beach whaling station had money to do so and opportunity, so it was continually tacked on. So now to this day we are incrementally fixing up all those bits and pieces that weren't necessarily in great shape to begin with. So we've got a fantastic maintenance team, that we've got a lot of history there that are constantly working towards that. I must say I got to the networking event yesterday and saw this banner, which very happy, so I didn't necessarily need a PowerPoint, I could just show you to the left. So I would like to thank the Heritage Council for showcasing us. As I said, as a non-for-profit, we are self-funded, self-managed, and we're constantly needing just to facilitate our growth and preservation ourselves through grant applications and just through dedication of a wonderful team that we have. So just to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what the business structure actually looks like. So we've got three elements. Obviously the whaling station is the main element that we have. We're a museum, we're a tourist location, but we've also got a wildlife park and a wildlife garden. So that brings a whole day trip. So we get people out there, they do the Gap, they do Frenchman's Bay, and then they come see us. And we have so much to offer our location. The original concept of creating a precinct, creating more reason for people to come, is to create those additional revenue streams as well, so we can actually maintain the real reason that we exist, which is the whaling station. So we've got a few missions, and then essentially bringing stories to life, which is what heritage is. And that there requires passion, and we're constantly showcasing that. So to be able to bring stories to life, we also have to focus on education. So we've got many educational programs that we have. We have school kids, even to this day, coming and going, and that's from primary to high school, and we've even got connections with universities, and we are always looking forward to how do we keep showcasing what we have, and also our next steps will hopefully be talking about our connection to Wales to this day. Major exhibitions that we have, we've recently opened the Wales from the Air. I don't have photos of this, so I do apologise. You just need to come visit us if you want to come see it. So we have a Cessna, so we don't just have a ship, we've got a plane. We've also got the Art of Scrimshaw, which is internationally renowned Scrimshandian Gary Tonkin, which is phenomenal. That blew me away the first time I saw it. You won't see anything like it around the world. So it's a jawbone in its not quite natural state with teeth in it, all of it scrimshaw, telling very unique stories. We're actually known as a modern whaling station, funnily enough, so it does actually go into the historical depths of the old school. So let's think Moby Dick and not just quite these big sturdy ships. And I forgot to mention we've also got Chains 4, but I'll talk about that more soon. So when we go peel back the tourism layers, we go back to what we're really about, which is cultural heritage and the conservation. So we opened up as a museum in 1980 as Whale World. We're now Albany Historic Whaling Station, FYI. So we got the real paperwork done in 1998, which is the original conservation management plan that was established then, and we're now updating it. So let's fast forward to 2024. We are in the throes of just making sure everything's up to date. We need to refocus on now we've got new technologies, we've got new abilities to communicate, and we're forward thinking. So what we needed to do is peel that back, go back to making a new conservation management plan, corrosion report, and our next step is going through the significant assessments on our artefacts and what we've got sitting around the place. Just wanted to touch base on why we're here. Today we're talking about the conference. We need to always go back to what's the meaning of life, what is the meaning of us, what's the meaning of culture and heritage. So our main meaning is the preserving cultural narratives. So that's storytelling. So we've got many ways that we do tell the stories, and we've got many ways of how we want to continue to tell the stories. And that's our connection as well to the place, sense of being, the history, and the people that actually worked out there. We've still got great connections with those. We have the Whalers reunion every single year. We've got volunteers that show up every single day and just work from the heart for us, and then continue those stories. So, they're pretty passionate fellas. We've got one guy that's 86 and he gets up and down that ship better than I do. So it's pretty incredible to be a part of, I must say, and it's meaningful. So that's our tangible heritage as well through story. Which brings me to connection, the community engagement. That's really why I would suggest we all do it, is just having connection with each other, connection with our past, and connection with the people that built the place, the connection with what it meant to Albany in the early days. It is an industry that can be a little bit confronting about what was the reality, what was happening out there. It's certainly, by today's standards, not something that we would be proud of, but it's something that had a sense of pride, and what we did for the rest of the world in that industry was seen as pretty advanced. So there were Norwegian engineers. We took a lot from other countries and modified it for our particular conditions. So that's something that does exist, whether or not it's today's standards. As has been previously mentioned, or perspectives is what we need to showcase when we talk about heritage and history. And those shared experiences continue to this day. And then continuity. We wouldn't be heritage listed, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have that sense of not changing too much, having that snapshot in time, this is what we are. So bit of authenticity with the photo there, a few larrikins back in the day. So no humans were harmed in the filming of this picture. So that's on the Flensing deck. So a lot happened, certainly wouldn't be seen with shorts this day and age with the work health and safety. So we did cut that picture. We've got some graphic pictures which I wasn't going to show you today. But the continuity is very important. How do we showcase something that isn't modern day standards and ethics, but without cutting that out too much? We need to stay true to what the story was and what happened there. So black and white photos have been used quite a bit to take some of the red colour out of it. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today though is our crown jewel, the Chains 4. I think a lot of people just take for granted that it's just there. You see all these tourist brochures, magazines, it's just there, but it wasn't there before. And how did it get there, and what was its life before that? So I would like to say that this is the Chains 4 fourth life. So it had a bit of a journey to get to where it is now, and it's got a journey to go so we can keep it there and keep it as the interactive space that it is. It hasn't always looked this glorious, and we want it to continue to do so. So this is where we get into the preservation and the conservation of the case study for this. I'm not going to get too technical, but let's go through the timeline of the Chains 4 whale chaser. So built in Norway and in 1948. So she's an old woman now, and we look after her and we're proud of her. And every single day we walk past her and she's just in the middle of the site, and we're very proud of having that ability to have people come on there, experience it. We've got sounds and sights from the original when she was actually in her heyday in her career, that you can get on board and you can still hear that and feel that energy today. So that interactiveness, we've got a harpoon at the front, and there's not a week that, I was saying this to Jared yesterday, there's not a week that goes by that I haven't been shot at with a harpoon as I walk on past. And that engagement is just such a delight to see, because you get to hear, touch, feel. So as long as we can keep bringing the people on board, we can give that connection back to the past. So then in 1970, I missed a bit, built in Norway and then went to Durban. So her first job was in South Africa. And then she was sold to the Chains Beach whaling station, and that's where she became a part of the family and became Chains 4. So we all know there's a few of the chains around the place. And then in 1978, she retired, or so she thought. Then she sat at the town jetty for a few years, and that's when she got neglected and was a bit of an eyesore for a few. And then there were many discussions. What next? What do we do with her? There was, not just that really. What do we do with the whaling station? The tools were dropped. Everyone got laid off and went about their lives. So what happened next? Obviously, turned into a tourist attraction, museum, and then it was decided that Chains 4 needs to go home to her final resting place. She didn't make it across the Sound until 1984, and as we all know, it all comes down to money, who does it, how do we get it there, logistics. So she made her way around the harbour, into the Sound, and there she is, and where she still sits today. But it didn't stop there, because what do we do with her next? She has deteriorated. The elements of the ocean are very, very harsh. So she came to rest with a few medical conditions. So it was at that point, you hear the old interviews and the audio, well, what next? I don't know, we've got 80 grand, they said. 80 grand, let's see what we can do with that. So as we know, 80 grand doesn't get you very far, and when it comes to restoration, because we have to do it respectfully and we have to do it well. So years of intensive restoration when the 80 grand got spent and she turned into another beautiful lady, but she still wasn't ready to be an interactive museum space. So she did sit there at Whale World to look at, but don't touch. But then after a while, with so much love, hard work, the maintenance team, which they all still remember, they got her positioned, made it safe, got the boardwalks, got her painted up, got parts of it working. The engines, if you go down, everything just looks fantastic, but it took a while. And then she was officially open to the public in 1999, and this is what we get to enjoy today. So a lot of work has gone into getting her there. So it comes to us now, how do we keep her there? We've got 25 years of that interactive offering. How do we get another 25 years? Because we're at the point again that she needs some medical attention. We've got some challenges. Corrosion. So we got the corrosion report, and I didn't know there was this many type of corrosions. So these are her diagnosis. I won't go through what they all mean, but essentially it comes down to there's salt water, there's wind, there's the rain even. Just she's getting water from every direction, to be honest. And she's sitting on a sandbank. So there's part of it is cement, another part is sand. So we constantly are working on her. We're constantly putting love into it. But as I said, the volunteers, they're always removing rust, they're always painting. So what we get to experience every single day is her beauty from above. So it's not all doom and gloom. We've still got this wonderful interactive space that we get to share. So that's basically the most positive visitor experiences we see. There's always laughter coming off the ship. It's amazing. I've just recently gone travelling and I've seen a few other vessels. I've gone to Darling Harbour. You just look at everyone, they're next to a boat, they're happy. You can't be sad next to a ship or a boat. So that connection, humans have always wanted to be on water, around water, in water. So we definitely need to protect her. So there's a few. That's one of our volunteers, Stuart. He is very interesting to talk to. So if you do come out, all our volunteers are ready to tell you a story which continues our connection. But this is where we're at. So this is why she's our case study at the moment. So we are on a mission to get her restored so she can continue to sit on the sandbank. So last year we redid her footings, so she's cemented in firmly now. There's no way she's going to go anywhere, which she tried to do for a little while there. We want her safe, we want her to continue to showcase what we have. So a few of these pictures are confronting when it comes down to how do we fix it. And when you look at the report, what's a priority 1, what's a priority 2, and 3. So priority 1 is 0 to 12 months. Priority 2 is 12 months to 24 months, etc. Most of the report is priority 1. So we are getting up to date on how to best work that. So we're collaborating. We've got vessel specialists, engineers, structural designers, and we've got a major Heritage Works grant application right now with the Heritage Council. I don't know if any of you are in the room, but she's a beauty. Okay, so we're from here. Pretty much we don't deviate off the path. We don't need to change anything of what we're doing. We just need to keep doing it, and we keep moving forward with our preservation efforts, but we just lift our game. We go into full restoration period, and it's even more imminent. 2025, we need to get ready. We've got 2026, we've already talked about it. We need to showcase Albany. We're the first of Australia. I know there are many places around Australia that are watching how we deal with the bicentenary. So we just continue with the Chains 4 preservation project, but we're not forgetting about the rest of the site. So there's a lot of other steel that's rusting that we're also dealing with. So we continue to collaborate with partners. We've got a very good relationship with the National Maritime Museum. All the maritime museums around the country stick together and do give each other advice. Everyone's got the same problems actually, so no one's special. We've all get to sit and whinge and talk to each other, and the main thing is time and money, so we can continue to showcase these beautiful things. And then educating people. So that's why I'm completely out of my comfort zone today, because if you don't know, I hope that you walk away at least knowing and understanding something that sits so special to the local community. There's a lot behind it. We don't just have this ship sitting there, and it requires a lot. So when I talk to vessel restoration specialists, I've certainly learned a lot goes into it. You don't just get to keep these ships without really tending and caring to them. And then obviously community engagement, and that's really important to me, in sharing stories and memories. And I worked in the gift shop on Saturday morning, and every single person, we always ask, how did you hear about us? And everyone just says, I've always known about you. Even from Queensland, New South Wales, I just know about you, which is pretty wonderful. And it does show you how special we are, and iconic for a destination as well. And I'll just show you the next picture. We get to be here. So pretty specky. Specky, but also that's where it causes all the corrosion. So anyway, thank you for listening. Any questions that I can hopefully answer?
Any questions? Yep. I'll ask this one first.
Be nice to me, Wayne, please.
Thanks, Jen. I'm in tourism, and we've got that connection. You know that.
Yep.
I went to the convention centre last week when we had 300 Aussie specialists from all around the globe visit West Australia and do familiars right across with Tourism WA and Tourism Australia. It was an amazing event. And one of the stories I was telling with my tourism stuff is we've got some great maritime stories down here. They're untold stories. They're underrated. When you look at the Dutch and the French and the British navigators who sailed down the west coast and along the south coast were Dan Hamlin and also other George Vancouver, who claimed it's part of West Australia for the British Crown. And you talk about the Maritime Museum in Sydney. That is amazing. That is incredible. And you've got the Dyken there. You've got the Vampire, and you've got the Oxley submarine, and there's and Cook's ship was there too. Forget the name. So we've got a maritime history, but it's underrated. We've got the Anzac Centre, we've got the Convoy Lookout, we've got our museum, and we've got the Amity. Have you thought about extending or expanding in this area to promote all those navigators, the maritime history we've got right around the south coast and the west coast. We've got 200 French names along our coast. That sort of stuff was unique to Australia, Terra Australis, in West Australia, not the east coast. So we've got an amazing maritime history which is not talked about. It's not a part of our conversation. It's all part of our, goes back to our colonial history and the colonial empires of the day. Have you thought about sort of looking at those sort of things?
Of course. Good question, and you're right, it is fascinating. We talk about it all the time. What do we do next? What else can we do? Because we've got obviously so many opportunities, so many stories, but we always conclude that we need to stay true to what we are showcasing. So we aren't actually showcasing the whole history of Western Australia. We're not showcasing all the ships and all the boats and all of the people that first got here. So going back to the beginning, we're custodians of Chains Beach Whaling Station. So that's what we showcase. That's what we want to do that right, and we're constantly evolving that. We will take on more about whales because that's really relevant to what our story is and our connection. I feel if we start taking on representing all of that, we will dilute what we actually are and we will no longer be as authentic.
Two quick comments and then a question. First of all, I want to apologise because for years I've been saying Chainies instead of chains. So, you only see it written down.
Good job, you learnt something today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is that I had a very, very minor role involved in the restoration of HMS Ovens recently, so I can relate to having, a vessel on the coast and some of the tricks involved with that. So, the question I had though was around interpretation. So I'm guessing, particularly in the early days when the international whaling ban had come into effect and Chainies was one of the last whaling stations, a lot of the kind of interpretation panels and signage and stuff would probably be telling stories about whaling in the past, and now you've got this resurgence in international whaling. Have you had to, reinterpret the space to tell those stories, or do you just kind of stay away from that because it's politics and
Column A, column B, and column C. So it's a complete evolution because we've been in a museum since we're 1980. There's parts of us that is still 1980, and then 90s and 2000s, and then what we're showcasing now has just gone to complete next levels. I think that journey through the museum showcases that journey of being a museum. We definitely have to constantly re-look at the interpretation to understand if it's accurate, if it's showcasing the full story as to what we have of it now. And then it also goes back to money, time, resources. And there is definitely the requirement to stay authentic. How much do we recreate? Because the museum now itself it's like a museum. So, and one of the things that I found recently, I'm looking at museums all with a very different lens, is you can see the evolution of it, and a lot of the new exhibitions showcase how they turned it from the old exhibition to the new exhibition, and the archaeology development and the interpretive change and evolution. So we wouldn't want to take away from how we presented the stories in the 80s and the 90s. So it's about connecting all of that together as well, because we obviously, if we find inaccuracies that have to be upgraded or new versions of the story, it's always a dilemma of how much do you delete or just add to. So that's a question. We do all of that, and I'd say everyone that has a museum has that same requirement as well, because you can't delete what we have done as in the past. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking more about if you guys mention the whaling that's going on now, and if you're comfortable commenting on that as a museum, as an organisation, or if you just kind of steer clear of that whole thing entirely?
We definitely steer clear of that at this point. We are always taking it from the point of view of us now and Australia now. So regardless of what other countries are doing and what's happening in other areas, we're showcasing our region, we do shout outs obviously to Australian whaling, Carnarvon and basically their stories are integrated into our stories, there's shared staff members and the like, but what internationally we won't comment about that. And if anything, showcasing what's happening here is there's wonderful research getting done through UWA, through Little White Whale, through all these different areas locally. So that's the evolution of our storytelling, is what is our connection to whales and what's our connection to the maritime in this region now. Yeah.
Beautiful. One more question if anyone has one. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I'm a local, but I have worked with a lot of institutions like the Mawson Science Foundation, the National Museum of Australia, and so on. And my interest is in digital replicas using game engines and stuff like that.
What was your name?
Visualization. My name is Peter Morse. Hi. And so I was just wondering what your feelings were or thoughts were about the possibility of a digital replica of the ship. Given that, you have an amazing resource there, really, and these sorts of things, artefacts can be really, with high resolution reproductions can be made, and they can be displayed in alternative contexts like computer game engines and online services, things like that. Yeah. Are those strategies of interest to you?
Absolutely. The future is being able to tell the story in new ways and new interactive ways, especially this day and age. We need to take into account accessibility issues. So that would be the perfect response for people that can't actually get on the ship and have a look themselves, is having that virtual way to experience it and all the other technological advancements. And yes, very keen. It just comes down to timeliness on how we can get these projects done, and yes, I'm happy to talk more. Nice to meet you, Peter. Yes.
Round of applause, please.